Good evening and welcome to Austin, Texas and the Circuit of the Americas for round 11 of the Invictus F1 Performance League. But before we get to track, a quick introduction to tonight's co-commentator, and it is the same as last week. It is Captain Stiff, aka Gareth Fresh, from last night's No Assist League. How are you this evening, Gareth, and have you recovered from that dominating display from Gamer last night?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Craig. Thanks for having me in the box once again. It's great to be back. It was an absolutely electric performance from Game of the Best last night to take the lead and win the race by around 53, 55 seconds. So if any of the guys can take that on board and move forward with it today, it could be an absolutely dominating performance. And it's something that we don't usually see in the Performance League.
No, definitely not. And I've been contacted by a former driver of the No Assist League, Speed Queen. Actually, she is the current No Assist champion. Chose to take her season out this season, of course. And I'm certain that she'll come back and certainly give Gamer a run for his money.
Yeah, you'd like to have a couple more cars in the lobby that were just able to keep up with Gamer, who has just dominated throughout the latter part of the season, having not finished any lower than second. It's someone really needs to step up and really take the game and take the race to Game of the Best.
Yeah, we have seen a few drivers actually develop, not only in the No Assist League, but also in the Performance League, which we're actually covering this evening. Drivers like Sir Spotted, although he won the Mexican Grand Prix, fell out of form a little bit through the middle half of the season, but spectacular season from Wave Intel, who secured P3 last week in Bahrain and moves up to the top of the championship with Nick Thompson just 3 points behind. So impressive driving and great development from Wave Intel, currently racing in the F3 League.
Yeah, it's been really impressive watching Wave develop over the going season. He had a slow start to the Performance League, and up until China in the 6th Grand Prix of the season, his best finish was only 6th position. But after that, from Canada onwards, he's been on the podium for the last 4 races with 3 firsts and a win. So Wave Intel really showing some performance come the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely turning on their form when it matters most at the business end of the season. And possibly a real contender, although he is leading the Drivers' Championship. We will have the Boogster returning, a driver who's also had a cracking season. And I'm certainly, I think that the Boogster will be hoping that there isn't too much daylight between championship rivals Wave Intel and Nick Thompson from this evening.
No, you'll definitely be hoping for the guys to maybe get bogged down in a lower position on the grid and get caught up in a tangle earlier in the race. But with the pace that's been shown by Wave Intel, he's actually looking possibly a little bit more informed than Nick L.J. Thompson, who's yet to pick up that elusive win in the Performance League this season. Yeah,
Nick Thompson driving for the Haas at their home Grand Prix, so Haas will be expecting Nick Thompson to give a stupendous performance, hopefully securing a podium that may not be too far out of sight.
No, it's definitely possible, but we know how tricky this circuit can be and just how easy it is to pick up penalties, especially through the tricky Sector 1, the sweeping corners through Turn 3 through Turn 9. It's going to be on the guys tonight to keep those 4 wheels within the white limits of the track. It's actually quite a wide surface at COTA because it's built for various different formula. So around 42 to 52 feet wide for the width of the track. So it's definitely imperative these guys keep it on the black stuff.
Yeah, it's certainly quite a tough track for track limits as well. Penalises the driver's mistakes, even if they breach the track boundaries slightly. So Wave Intel putting himself in a reasonably strong position at the moment, dropping now down to third with SGD, putting it on provisional pole in the Renault. So that looks very promising for Renault this evening. with Sir Spud also driving for Renault after last week's race victory. But a driver that will be wanting and hoping to put the bad results to bed, as well as the bad luck, is Nitrogash again in the Mercedes, who was unfortunate after contact with Mr. Stim Bahrain, just coming out that 5, 6 and 7 sequence. So Nitrogash putting in provisional pole, he's given himself half a second advantage over Renault driver SGD, and I'm certainly sure that there's more to come from Nitrogash as we continue with the qualifying session.
Yeah, Nitrogash very unlucky throughout the entire season. We know he's got the pace. It's about transferring that one lap pace into race consistency for him, and hopefully today he'll be able to pick up a better haul of points as he struggled throughout the entire season with it.
Yeah, I certainly don't think he'll want to end this season securing 0 points. So far, the worst season that I've ever remembered Nitrogash from having. And it's not down to driver skill. He is a very competent driver and a great defender and great wheel-to-wheel driver. So yeah, he'll be hoping to break his duck this season and definitely just wanting this season done with.
Now, just on board with MJ Coupe here in the Force India tonight. He's heading down the long straight, turning into turn 12. Got the DRS flap open as he breaks down into the slow left-hander from 196 miles an hour down to 68. An interesting drive to look at today. He's shown some flashes of good performance in Performance League, but it's in the F3 League that MJ Coupe's really come alive this season.
Yeah, definitely. He's certainly made his way up that F3 Championship table, and he's certainly one to watch for next season in F1 2018, possibly moving up to F2. But just going from last season's USA Grand Prix, just want to speak a little bit about Notorious. Certainly a favourite of commentator of F3 League, Malk, as well. We saw some spectacular overtakes from Notorious in the Red Bull last season, and he's actually driving for the Red Bull again this evening, so we could see some more spectacular Ricciardo style overtakes from Notorious.
Yes, the Irishman has been showing traces that in F3, especially in the last race where he picked up a good result out in Bahrain. So in the Red Bull today, hopefully he'll be getting some good points and a positive result come the end of the race.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for 4 drivers to set a qualifying lap time. I think they possibly made a mistake and actually invalidated the lap, so we're waiting for Saab, Giuseppe, Nick Thompson and Notorious, who I think has ran out of fuel and will be returning to the pits. So those 4 drivers yet to make post a qualifying lap time. And just to move on a little bit to strategy, Gareth, it's clear that the one-stop strategy is possible, but it's what one-stop strategy you go for. Do you go for the ultras then onto softs, or do you go for the supers and then onto softs, looking to get more consistent times from the super softs, and with it being more durable as well?
With the guys in the league as they are, I think they're all quite aggressive on their strategy, so I think you can see them going probably for the softer tyres and trying to get them to get as much life out of them as possible. So it's really down to the driver preference, but I think we can see a lot of the guys go for a more aggressive strategy come the race.
And of course we don't know what the weather conditions are going to be yet on the race, so it could be that we may have rain and all the drivers are looking to get grid position going into the race in wet conditions, or it could be, as you say, a dry race and all these guys are going for an aggressive one-stop strategy, just looking to go quicker at the start of the race and putting themselves into that preferable pit window.
I think what is interesting, Nick L.J. Thompson out on an outlap, so not like last week where he sat out of qualifying and started at the rear end of the grid, and it didn't work out for him. Although he got to start on his choice of tyres, he picked up wing damage in a first corner collision with the 2 Renaults. So I think Nick is definitely going to have to look at trying to start as far up that grid as possible. Yeah,
and I think Haas will be wanting that car on the grid as well for the home fans. getting a little bit of TV coverage as well for their sponsors. So possibly out of necessity, but also expectation as well. The reason that Nick Thompson's putting in a lap time, but yeah, he'll certainly want to avoid any turn 1 collision. It really tightens up and narrows at the top of the hill at turn 1, and it forces the cars to converge together, and we could possibly see a bump or a spin, similar to what we had actually witnessed last night with Jamie spinning at turn 1 and making a superb comeback for Force India, securing second place.
Yeah, as you were saying, it's a very tricky corner to master, because although it is right on the peak of that hill, the actual corner and the apex of the corner is completely flat, so the cars can bottom out, and you'll see a lot of guys locking up the front brakes going into turn 1. Equally coming out of turn 15, the surface just kind of falls away from you as SJD's just going around the corner now. It's very easy to kick the rear around and just get a slight bit of oversteer as you come out.
And the first driver to change it up a little bit strategy-wise, Giuseppe Ford Williams, out on the super soft tyres, currently sitting 10th in qualifying, yet to set up a lap time, of course, and we're just following him round that fast, long, sweeping right-hander onto the penultimate corner, that blind last corner, and then round to the final corner down the pit straight. DRS open and sets a 1:36.8, very impressive on the super soft tyres, and it's good enough for 8th place.
As SJD goes top of the times with provisional pole position, beats Nitro Gas's 1:35.2 by 10th and puts it on pole currently with a 1:35.1, so absolutely cracking lap there for SJD to put himself on provisional pole with 30 seconds left in the session.
Yeah, certainly lays down the gauntlet for Nitrogas, just coming up to that long sweeping right-hander. So the pressure on for Nitrogas and Mercedes to deliver and retake provisional pole as he approaches turn 19, comes down the hill, trying to get that braking point perfectly. Turn the Mercedes in, a little bit of a snap of oversteer from the rear end, and currently still in second, so does not improve at the moment, but I think he's fueled enough to go for a second lap up the hill, braking for turn 1, lets the car run out wide perfectly onto the curb, puts the power down, running down the hill towards turn 2, and just going to ride on board through this S section. Runs deep out of turn 5, I believe that was, gets the car turned in for turn 7 up the hill, braking sector 1. And this is always a challenging part for any driver, trying to find the rear end or try and maintain rear end grip while trying to stay on the power.
Absolutely, as Tom 44 crosses the line in third position, didn't manage to beat his time, just got a little bit of snap oversteer as he came out of the last corner, and I think that lost him at those precious and crucial couple of tenths, and unfortunately that means he will start currently on the second row of the grid.
Yeah, and although he is on the second row of the grid, he's actually still on the clean side, so he should get, or theoretically get, a better start off the line from Nitrogas, still in second, but Nitrogas just coming round the end of sector 2 into sector 3. Has he improved on that previous lap? Drops down to third with Wave and Tail moving up to second with a 1:35.2. So Nitrogas just coming out of turn 19 down the hill towards turn 20 for the final time in qualifying. Has he improved on the previous lap time of a 1:35.2? It does! It puts it on pole with a 1:35 dead. So it takes provisional pole. Actually, I think that is pole, as all drivers have received the checkered flag, but impressive from SJD for Renault and Wave and Tail for Toro Rosso as well, and I think we're in for a cracking race.
Nitrogas once again pulling it out of the bag with an important lap when it counted, using that Mercedes power to, he was the last car out on circuit, so it was all the pressure was on him, and he gets the job done once again.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that he can take that confidence into the race, and we get through turn 1 cleanly with all drivers. But More importantly, for the championship, Wave Tail puts it on third place on the grid and on the clean side of the grid, so he'll be hoping for a great start off the line. So the classifications for qualifying: Nitrogash does take pole position, followed by SJD. Wave Tail does take third with Tom 444 in fourth. MJ Coupe 5th with Nick Thompson 6th, Mike 7th, Sir Spud 8th, Giuseppe starting on the Supers in 9th, Saab 10th, Fascone 11th for Haas, and Notorious in the Red Bull coming 12th, who did not set a lap time. So free strategic choice for Fascone and Notorious, the Irish boys.
Yeah, so potential Irish charge from the rear end of the grid as they make the 280-metre dash into turn one. And hopefully for Nitro, he'll use that Mercedes power off the line to out-drag the guys behind them that are slightly more underpowered. And good evening to the Boogster, who's watching the stream tonight. I'm sure that he'll be watching intently. He said, gutted I can't be here today, and it really is, because we'd love to have a three-way battle in this race and heading into the next race.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the question to the Boogster is, what will you be munching on when you're watching the race? Will it be popcorn or will it be nails, due to Wave Tail's impressive qualifying performance? But Nick Thompson, I believe, starting from 6th as well, so still in a chance for a podium for Nick Thompson, who we know is a very quick and consistent driver.
Yeah, and with currently the circuit looking like it's dry, slightly overcast with blue cracks in the clouds, so looking like we will be starting on dry tyres. So currently it will benefit the guys with the higher power, so Nitro in the Mercedes and Mike in the Ferrari.
Yeah, and I think it would be interesting to know what the track temperature is. If it's a little bit cooler than qualifying, we may see the car starting from P11 and 12, maybe going for the harder compound, the soft tyre, looking to get maximum grid in those cooler temperatures. So it does look as if we have the strategies chosen by the drivers, and we will be joining them on track shortly. As mentioned, Nitrogash does lead us away from pole position. We have 4, 5 red lights, and we are go in Austin, Texas. And it is a great start from Nitrogash off the line, but SGD lightning start, and the Renault gets ahead and leads the pack into turn 1, followed by a Mercedes going up the inside. Wave Tail going round the outside, moves up to P1. SGD runs slightly off track, drops to P5. So great start from Wave Tail. Nitrogash dropping down to P2.
Yeah, a great start there for Wave Tail to take the lead early. That's really what the Boogster didn't want to see as he sits watching the stream. And it's Wave Tail that takes the lead from Nitro. MJ Coupe up to 3rd place, and Nick LJ Thompson was stuck in that midfield going into turn 1. The two Force Indias almost got into each other and he had to back out of it. He didn't want to pick up more front wing damage. And it's Nick LJ Thompson who's currently sitting in 7th place behind Giuseppe on the super soft tyres, so he needs to get ahead of the slower car ahead of him.
And MJ Coupe, great run on Nitrogash, running on the outside as we go down the back straight. Nitrogash tries to cover him off. Oh, and it's wheel-to-wheel action round the end of DRS on 2 at turn 12. MJ Coupe moves up to P2 on the exit of turn 12, running into turn 13. But Tom 444 and the other Force India looking to put Nitrogash under pressure. Nitrogash won't want to lose too many positions, feeling that he's got the strongest car in this race.
So Spud, last week's winner, out in 8th place at the moment, got the move done on Saab as Saab retakes 8th position from Spud as he runs wide coming out of turn 19. But it's a real decent battle between the guys at the back of the grid. Yeah, Nitrogash ran deep on the exit of turn 20. Tom 444 got a great exit out of turn 20 and actually goes up the inside at turn 1, trying to force Nitrogash round the outside, and he's actually got the move done. So Tom 444 moves up to 3rd. Sitting on board with Nitrogash as he goes through the sweeping section of sector 1, following the rear end of Tom 444's force injury. He's right in the gearbox of that force injury, and hopefully he'll look to launch it up the inside going into turn 11. onto the main straight, if not use the drag down and get the move done using slipstream into 12.
Yeah, and as Tom...
does dive down.
What a dive up the inside. Catches Tom sleeping in the Force India. But I was just going to say, as Nitrogas and Tom were battling, that allows SGD to close the gap in the Renault. And it certainly made up the gap at the end of Sector 1. So Tom trying to come back at Nitrogas. Oh, there's a move up the inside for Nick Thompson at turn 12. And Nick Thompson moves up to P5. Oh, and SGD come under pressure from Giuseppe. Coming round 13 and 14. And he's trying a Jamie 6-3-2-8 move up the inside at turn 15, and I'm sure Jamie will enjoy that sitting at home.
Absolutely cracking battle there for Nick Giuseppe and SJD, and it's still Tom 44 and Nitro Gash battling over that final position on the podium as Waventel and MJ Coupe start to make a break for it with a 3-second lead. But it's a battle for third. They were trading positions throughout the entire third sector, and Tom 44 just couldn't get the move done. He tried a very late lunge into turn 15 on Nitro, but Nitro slammed the door shut on the Force India.
Yeah, and I think the Bugster will be cheering for MJ Coupe at the moment as he begins to close down the gap to Waventel. The gap now down to 0.8 of a second. So this is vital for the Bugsters' championship hopes on the return in Malaysia as Tom and Nitrogas continue to battle round turn 6 and 7. And Nick Thompson's trying to get in amongst this party.
Yeah, looking back, and Nick Thompson, he's really trying to catch up to the rear end of Tom 44, and if he can get involved in this battle. But he's got Giuseppe and SJD for real close company behind him, and they're starting to really hassle the rear end of that Haas car.
Yeah, absolutely, and Giuseppe can go longer in this race on the super soft tyres. He does have DRS, so Nick Thompson could come under pressure from Giuseppe. Goes defensive on that run down towards turn 12. Coming back on to try and close down that racing line. Turning, and there's a little bit of bang on the wheels. But Nick remains ahead of Giuseppe round turn 13 and 14.
And the battle behind is now inviting Sab, SJD and Spud into the battle as the Red Bull just slides a little bit too wide and just puts the Renault out onto the dirty line. But it's now becoming a 5 and 6 car battle for 5th position.
Yeah, so Spud tried a little dive down to turn 15, couldn't slow the car down, ran wide out of turn 15. That allowed Saab to come back into play, and there was a little bang of wheels as Sir Spud tried to come back on track, and allowed Saab to regain 8th place.
As MJ Coupe sitting 0.6 of a second behind Waventel as they go through sector 1, and it's a 5-second stop go for Fascone with severe collision with Sir Spud. Didn't manage to pick that one up on camera, but Fascone currently in 11th and Spud in 10th position.
Yeah, Giuseppe misses turn 5, runs wide, comes back on track. SJD had to slow down slightly to avoid contact, and that's allowed Saab and the Red Bull to close right up behind Renault. And Saab putting himself in a position for a possible double overtake on the run down to turn 12 with DRS assistance.
As MJ Coupe looks to the outside and takes the move on Waventel's Toro Rosso going into turn 12. He got the move done using DRS. Waventel just got a little bit of oversteer coming out on turn 11, and it gave Coupe the real impetus just to send it around the outside, use that boost of DRS, and he got the move done. And now we'll see if Coupe can stretch this lead out, or has Waventel got anything left to come back at him with.
Yeah, and SED still stuck behind Giuseppe with both Red Bulls lining up the Renault as they come round turn 16, 17 and 18. And it looks as if SGD tries to go defensive from Giuseppe. I actually got the move done round the long sweeping right-hander at 16, 17, 18. Great overtake from SGD. Now Giuseppe will have both Red Bulls to keep him company and put a little bit of pressure on that run down towards turn 1.
Yeah, as Waventel still sitting 0.6 of a second behind MJ Coupe as they go through sector 1, and he'll definitely look at doing the same thing, but he runs a little bit wide going across the curbing at turn 7, and that's going to lose a little bit of time. He does, he drops 0.2 of a second, so he's still going to be within DRS detection as we go into turn 11, but has he closed up enough to get a run at the Force India, which will be strong down the long straight?
Yeah, Saab just tucking in behind Giuseppe, coming up turns 8, 9 and 10 on that run down towards the tight hairpin at turn 11. So Saab looking to get maximum traction on the exit of turn 11 on that second DRS zone straight. Looks as if Giuseppe's got a little bit of an advantage with the Mercedes power unit. It's going to be a late braking competition. Saab, does he feel as if he's close enough to make that late dive? And he's actually taking a cautious approach at the moment. So we've got a long way to go. We're only lap 5 of 28, and Saab certainly playing the long game, not wanting to risk any damage to the front wing of that Red Bull.
And these guys out there are really battling hard early in this race. They are not looking after these ultra soft tyres. They are going all guns blazing, wanting to pick up as many points as possible. As Tom 444 got the move done on Nitro Dash going into turn 12. Nitro just slightly outbraked himself, maybe looking in his mirrors just a fraction of a second too long, and it allowed Tom 444 to come up the inside after Nitro was recovering off of the dirty line.
Yeah, and although Saab trying to put pressure on Giuseppe, Notorious looking a little bit impatient, so possibly trying to egg his teammate. Oh no, there's contact between Red Bulls at turn 1. I think Notorious actually misjudged the braking of Saab ahead. I'm just going to ride on board. Doesn't look as if he's got any wing damage, but I think he really had to get out of that quick hand. Notorious loses a spot to Sir Spud, who moves up to P9 in the Renault. So Notorious possibly caught a little bit off guard there from the braking of Giuseppe and Saab up into turn 1.
Now what will be interesting for these guys on the ultra soft tyres is, do they still stick with an aggressive one-stop strategy? But you can already see some of the guys starting to get a little bit twitchy when it comes out of corners. So are they taking too much life out of these tyres too early in the stint, meaning that they might potentially have to look at a two-stop?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly running behind cars such as Giuseppe and Saab could actually lead Saab to scrub those ultra soft tyres, and it may force him into an unscheduled two-stop strategy.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be a tricky call. We see it working somewhere. We saw Joel V520 has made the two-stop strategy work before, and we saw Mr. Stim make it work in Bahrain last time out. But it's very, very difficult to see if it's going to have to be a real gamble for the pit wall and the engineers to make that decision.
Oh, sorry to drop you there, Gareth, but Sir Spud trying to go round the inside at 16, 17 and 18, but Giuseppe with the inside line just goes defensive, forcing Sir Spud a little bit wide there and force him to lift off as well. So great defending from Giuseppe. But yeah, we will be approaching the first pit window, and it will be interesting to see who actually pits early, possibly changing to the two-stop strategy, or sticking to their guns and going one-stop.
As the current leader, MJ Coupe picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, so most likely corner cutting around the first sector. But it's Nick L.J. Thompson who's now starting to threaten the rear end of Nitro Gas, the pole sitter, who's fallen back to fourth and fallen off of the podium spots. But Nick is going to be within DRS, and he will attack the Mercedes heading down the straight, and it's the Ferrari power Haas versus the Mercedes, and Nitro pushing him to the inside line. Nick just couldn't get the move done. Nitro went very, very defensive and possibly a little bit too aggressive there. Just Nick had some move to the outside, and Nitro defending, both of them go deep into turn 12, and this battle will continue going through sector 3.
Yeah, it looked as if Nitro Gas should compromise his turn entry, going onto the defensive line. Oh, but Nick Thompson looked to come up the inside at turn 15, and the cars are going wheel to wheel. Will we see them go wheel to wheel round the fast right-hander? It looks as if Nitro Gas has got his nose in front and actually begin to open up that gap between himself and the Haas. So Nitro Gas was a little bit compromised by his space behind Force India of Tom 444, and that allowed Nick Thompson to line him up. So Nitro Gas has actually had enough on these ultra soft tyres and will opt to come in and make his first pit stop. Yeah,
so it's Nitro and SJD that decide to go for the undercut. And what tyre choice do they go for? Do they go and try and run long? But it'll be a long 20 laps on a set of softs. But it is, by the looks of it, a set of super softs for SJD. and another set of ultra softs for Nitro. So Nitro opting for the two-stop strategy.
Yeah, possibly going for the super softs on the third stint after the second pit stop. But Mike, looking to go to the end of the race, opting for the soft tyre as Saab picks up a 3-second time penalty from race control.
Now what Nick L.J. Thompson needs to do now that he's free of all of that traffic with Nitro and SJD is he needs to make this extra lap or two that he's going to be out on those old ultra softs counting. He needs to have a good in lap if he's going to jump Nitro, because the three of them were within really close quarters, so it's going to be imperative that Nick has a tidy and clean in lap if he's coming in to make sure that he jumps Nitro. He doesn't want to get stuck behind a Mercedes. He's got to look towards his championship.
Yeah, SGD look to have had the tighter line compared to Nitrogas at turn 11. That'll allow him to get on that power a little bit earlier. And with DRS, he's managed to close down the gap by 0.4 of a second. So can he hold on to the rear of that Mercedes coming through Sector 3, possibly putting them in a position to overtake at turn 1?
Yeah, and looking back, it's Notorious and Giuseppe, the two guys on the super softs that are embroiled in a battle going down into the final corner as they go side by side into turn 20. And it's Notorious that's trying to get the move done around the outside. He runs that wide. That is going to allow the Williams to come back up and have the inside line going into turn 1. But the Red Bull's going to tuck in behind again. Does he send it down the inside? We've seen moves thrown down the inside. He does very, very late.
Does. Oh, can he hold on it? Yes, it does. So great overtake from Notorious, back in top form. What did you think of that one, Gareth?
Oh, we were talking about it before the race, about the fact that Notorious will just throw it in if he sees the opportunity arise, and he did just that. Daniel Ricciardo-esque, he just saw the gap and threw it down the inside of Giuseppe, and Giuseppe just couldn't do anything about it. He put the car directly in front of the Williams, and the Williams just couldn't get the traction to beat him off the corner.
Yeah, and it looks as if it's the Tom 444 Nitrogas round 2. The only difference is Nitrogas still on the ultras, with Tom 444 looking to go to the end on the soft. So Nitrogas should have tyre advantage, and he'll be looking to possibly use Tom as a buffer between himself and Renault driver SGD as we make the way down the second DRS zone to turn 12.
Yeah, Nitro needs to get this move done early. He doesn't want to get caught up in any unnecessary battles. If he's going to be trying to get this move done, he needs to look at where Nick L.J. Thompson is further up on the circuit. But if he gets stuck behind Tom on the slow soft compound tyres, it's really important for his strategy if he's going to make it work, as he'll need to stretch out a lead over Tom, because Tom obviously trying to go towards trying to go to the end on those softs, whereas Nitro will need to make up at least 17 to 22 seconds to make that stop.
Yeah, he's burning his own tyres, he's compromising his own strategy, being stuck behind that Force India, but he'll be hoping to possibly get the move done round the outside at turn 1. He's got his nose ahead as we approach turn 1. Can Nitrogas get that car slowed down into turn 1? He does. He gets the car opened up. He opens up turn 1 into turn 2, opens up the gap between himself and Tom 444, and Nitrogas will feel a sense of relief that he's got that move done. Now he has Giuseppe and Notorious both on the super soft tyres just ahead as Nitrogas picks up a 3-second time penalty from race control as well.
As Nick L.J. Thompson, he feels the effects of Nitrogas's undercut as he comes out almost 8 seconds behind Nitro, so he's lost all that time driving around on those old tyres. Nitro, even though he's been stuck behind Tom, has made up that time being on the fresher boots, and unfortunately for Nick, he's now got soft tyres which won't be as easy to warm up as the ultra softs, and he's going to have to make these last as long as possible.
Yeah, SGD trying to run on the Force India of Tom 444 down at turn 12. The gap too big to actually get a move done in there, but trying to rein Tom in between now and the start finish line. But they do have a little bit of traffic, and they'll be picking up the dirty air round the fast right hander from the Mercedes of Nitrogas just ahead.
As our race leader pits from first position, that is MJ Cook, comes in as the two of Giuseppe and Nitrogas battle over fifth, and Nitro looks to have got the move done going into turn 20. He's carving through the field at the moment on those fresh ultra soft tyres, and he does get the move done on Giuseppe, so moves up into fifth place, and Nitro is definitely on the charge on these new tyres.
Yeah, good overtake there from Nitrogash, controlling the turn-in for turn 20 and preventing Giuseppe from getting the cut back. So good overtake from Nitro, and it's the old Nitro that we know and love in the USA Grand Prix. But Giuseppe looking to come under pressure from Force India driver. Top 444. Oh, Giuseppe makes a mistake at turn 5 and has to lift, and so does Tom. SGD and the Renault will be holding on to the rear of that Force India, possibly looking to line up both the Williams and the Force India for a double overtake and towards the turn 12. Tom looking to go on the inside line, Giuseppe sticking to the racing line. Oh, SGD looking to come alongside the Force India, just letting them know that he's there.
As up the front is Wave and Tell, who's caught up to the back of MJ Coupe. He used the undercut of one lap to put fresh softs on and use a absolutely cracking out lap to make sure that he cut that lead down. Coupe had managed to stretch out a little bit before the stop, but Wave and Tell now back within DRS detection of Coupe in front. And
Tom 444 gets the move done with braking into turn 12. So Tom moves up to 5th. Giuseppe currently in 6th, yet to pit, with SGD slightly behind, putting the challenge on. Oh, nearly went up the inside at turn 16, and Giuseppe just closed the door.
No, I was expecting to see carbon fibre flying across the screen there from the Renault car, as it just had the door shot at him by the Williams in front. He was very lucky there. He just put his nose ever so slightly where it shouldn't have been. It's a very, very brave move if you're going to try and go side by side through turns 16 to 18.
Nitrogash continuing his overtaking spree, moves up to 3rd place with an overtake on Notorious and a move up under braking into turn 1. So Nitrogash back up to 3rd, yet to pit again, of course. So he'll be hoping to close down the gap to Wave and Tail and MJ Coupe, who are 2.8 seconds up the track.
Is looking at Nick L.J. Thompson, who had moved up to 5th place before his stop, but being out on those old ultra soft tyres that he started on has cost him, as he's sitting in 7th place at the moment, dropping 1 position off of his starting. But of course, with Notorious still yet to pit, he's the last one on circuit yet to pit, there's potential that he could move up 1 position, but still not quite where Nick wants to be finishing.
Yeah, and I think Notorious may try and take these super softs a lot longer in the race, possibly converting over to the ultra softs. So Notorious possibly trying the most aggressive tyre strategy, and that may have been the reason he did not set a qualifying lap time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility for Notorious, and we've seen that he can be very racy on his day. And of course, Notorious has had some a little bit of bad luck. He obviously didn't start the last 2 races, but before that it's been 2 non-finishes and then a couple of 0 and 1 point finishes. It's only in Singapore where he picked up a 2nd place that he's really shown his true pace in the Performance League.
Well, Nick, as we were talking about Notorious's strategy, he does come into the pits moving on to the soft tyres, and it looks as if he could come out just ahead of Giuseppe in 9th place, so he drops down behind Sir Spud in 8th.
Now, just watching Nitro, he's starting to close up that gap between the leaders of Wave and Tell and MJ Coupe on the Ultrasofts, and Nitro utilising these Ultrasoft tyres to really throw this Mercedes around COTA as fast as possible. He wants to get back into the top end of the top end of the race and put himself back in the possibly looking at a race victory.
Yeah, but what he'll have to do is actually overtake both Wave and Tail and MJ Coupe, then begin to open up a little bit of a window so that he can come in for his 2nd pit stop, and that will be no easy task against 2 very quick drivers.
No, and we've seen just how vociferously that Wave and Tail keeps people behind. We saw in Hungary just how much he battled to make sure that he kept Sab, was it Sab? Or behind him, I think it was, in Hungary.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. He definitely kept Sab behind him for the majority of the race, and I don't think Sab enjoyed that race very much. But yeah, a very good defender with Intel, so Nitrogash will be facing no easy task by any means.
No, but he just picks up another 3-second penalty there for, I believe that's 2 3-second penalties for Nitro. So starting to rack up those penalty time, and that's going to really hinder him when it comes to the race finishes and the race standings, because although we know that drivers will pick up penalties throughout the race, you want to keep it to a minimum.
Yeah, and we saw MJ Coop picking up that 3-second time penalty earlier on in the race. I don't recall Wave Intel picking up any time penalties yet, so Wave Intel just needs to sit behind MJ Coop, and it's up to himself, if he wants to try the overtake or just sit behind. So it'll be interesting to see how MJ Coop and Wave Intel's race develops. But Tom 444 just slightly behind, round about 6.4 seconds. So if MJ Coop and Wave Intel begin to fight each other, then certainly that could come into play, or Tom could actually come into play and possibly take the advantage from both the leader and the second place driver battling in the second half of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, and we know just how much MJ Coop wants to atone for his unfortunate end of Bahrain last week, where he was running in second by an absolutely country mile to the guys behind, but picking up a left rear puncture on the last lap of the Grand Prix dropped him down to 5th place. So Coop really unfortunate to not pick up a podium last week, so he's going to look at trying to keep these guys behind him as long as possible.
Yeah, Nitro Gas just putting himself in DRS activation as we approach turn 1 on lap 15 of 28. MJ Coop picks up his second time penalty of the race, and that would effectively put him in the clutches of Tom 444. So time penalty is certainly going to play a factor for the final results of this race.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting. These guys on the soft compound tyres, they're going to... as SJD picks up a 3-second time penalty, as they get towards the latter stages of the races and those tyres will start going off, it'll be a lot harder to get that car turned in for that very fast sector 1 sweeping corner section. So you might see guys picking up even more time penalties and having a little bit more trouble with the stewards later on in the day, as they have to explain themselves for how many times they ran their car over the apexes.
And Nitro Gas losing a little bit of time to Wave Intel as we went through sector 1 and 2, just out with DRS activation as we went down from turn 11 and 12. So possibly looking to catch Wave Intel, and it could be an indication that the ultra soft tyres are actually starting to go off for Nitro Gas. Oh, a bit of a slide out of turn 15 as he was actually trying to apply the power in the Mercedes car. So Nitro Gas runs wide out of turn 18. So certainly an indication that Nitro Gas is pushing, and he just has to be mindful of track limits.
Yeah, Nitro just kicking the rear end of that Mercedes out around turn 15, and it just unsettled the car for the next 3 or 4 turns, and around turn 13 and 14 he got out onto that dirty painted area on the outside, and unfortunately it just meant he had no traction to turn it in, and that almost cost him later, as you can see, still starting to switch from side to side, and he was the first one to jump in off of his first set of tyres, so he's definitely going to be starting to feel the effects of tyre wear on those ultra softs. Yeah,
and definitely as he hits the cliff on those ultras, certainly dirty air will affect the front end of that Mercedes more than it would on fresh ultras. So we may see Nitro Gas coming into the pits, possibly this or the next lap, going on those super soft tyres, because he's doing no favours running in the dirty air of Wave Intel.
No, not at all. And Wave Intel picking up currently 10 points, which would put him on 66, which would eliminate the Boogster from the championship hunt going into the final race in Sepang in Malaysia. So it would only be Nick LJ Thompson that would be going one-on-one with Wave Intel for the championship. So worst possible scenario for the Boogster currently.
Yeah, Nick Thompson still stuck down in 6th place, 3.8 seconds, 3.9 seconds now behind SJD, but SJD had actually picked up a 3 seconds time penalty, so effectively he's only 7/10 behind if Nick Thompson has not accrued a time penalty thus far.
No, and Nick as Nitro does pit in for a new set of tyres, so most likely coming on to the super softs, and he'll take them 11 laps onto the end of the grid. So we'll see how far does Nitro drop down to see if he has to come back with. We know that he's quick. He's showed us the pace that he's got around the circuit of the Americas, and he looks to be like he's going to drop just behind Nick and maybe behind Sab.
Or worst case scenario, behind Sir Spud as well, who's actually just approaching the pit exit. And he does, so Nitrogash comes out in P8 behind Sir Spud. But Nitrogash will be on the quicker tyre compound apart from SJD. So Nitrogash can do the effective hammer time in the Mercedes and possibly make his way back up that grid.
Yeah, and we've seen just how eager Nitro has been to make overtakes today, and on those new ultra softs he was just cutting through the grid pretty easily. So on these new super softs he may be able to push a little bit harder, because the guys on the softs are going to be looking after those tyres, trying to get them to last as long as possible. So it's a real opportunity for Nitro here to make up some time.
Yeah, and the first driver lined in Nitrogash's sights is Sir Spud. 1.7 seconds ahead as we make our way down towards turn 12. So Nitrogash on fresh super softs should be absolutely mighty through sector 3 with those fresh boots on and maximum grip.
Currently MJ Coupe stretching out his lead at the top of the race, 2-3 seconds. So Wave Intel doesn't want to let him get too far away. Looks like Wave is looking after his tyres a little bit. He dropped off at around just over 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds away from MJ Coupe. But of course, the fact that Wave doesn't have those time penalties, and MJ Coupe has racked up 2 currently so far. So Wave Intel just wants to keep him within arm's length, just to make sure that he just doesn't stretch out of reach of the Scotsman.
Looks as if Nitrogash lining up Sir Spud as we make our way up the hill towards turn 1. Sir Spud thought about going defensive, but Nitrogash with DRS and the fresher tyres makes it move up to turn 1, goes deep. Sir Spud does the cutback, moves back up to P7, so Nitrogash braking late compromised his turn exit going deep in turn 1, and it looks as if he's really struggling behind the dirty air of the Renault as we go through 5, 6 and 7 up the hill slightly towards turn 8, round that turn 9 onto turn 9 in that inside little kink at turn 10. So round down the hill, can he line up Sir Spud on the move into turn 11? So Sir Spud gives him plenty of room, but Nitrogash just a little bit apprehensive, possibly waiting for the DRS straight.
Yeah, Nitrogash getting the move done. He's just on the inside of Spud as they go down the straight. Spud very aggressively moves it back into the slipstream, trying to get just a tiny bit of drag going down, but Nitro looks to have got the move done and moved up into 7th, but Nitro all out of shape through sector 1, and unfortunately it's not a complex of corners that allows you to kind of recover from a little bit of a mistake. And of course the track design by famous track designer Herman Tilke, who used the Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel section of Silverstone as inspiration, and of course around that circuit as well. If you find yourself out of shape, you can really mess up your lap and mess up your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sliding across the track won't be doing Nitrogash's tyres any favours as he's going to go to the end of the race, and he certainly needs that grip to put him back up into contention for a podium spot.
As SJD comes in for his second stop and puts on the ultra soft tyres as he drops down to 9th position currently, but means he will be on the fastest compounded tyre for the last 9 laps of the Grand Prix. So let's see what SJD can do on those ultra softs.
Yeah, he's going to come back out on track ahead of Giuseppe. So still in the points SGD, and I'm certain that he want to get higher up in the grid. He has notorious LIP 3.4 seconds ahead, and I think it's only a matter of time before he catches the Irishman in the Red Bull. So first driver in the sights of SGD is notorious, as Nitrogash currently chases down Saab. Oh, and he goes by as if he was just standing still. So the Mercedes power having great effect for Nitrogash, and of course with DRS assistance goes by Saab, as if Saab was almost going in reverse. So Nitrogash certainly maximising the super soft tyres at this stage in the race.
Yeah, Nitro just duplicating the move that he did on Sir Spud the lap previously, and he gets the job done, moves up past Sab into 5th position, and now Nitro's got his eyes. Now he can see Nick LJ Thompson ahead of him, and he's going to be starting to set his eyes on the rear end of that Haas.
Yeah, the gap currently sitting at 4.2 seconds as Saab picks up a 3-second time penalty, possibly trying to push the Red Bull to catch Nitrogas, putting him under a little bit of pressure, but that will certainly be a big ask being on the soft while Nitrogas is on the super. So Nitrogas starting to take out a few tenths between himself and Nick Thompson, currently in 4th place at the moment. Nick Thompson won't want to lose too many points at this stage in the season, Gareth. Certainly with Wave Intel running in 2nd place.
No, and Nick just needs to look at how his championship's going to play out going into the final race, because what he doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to get embroiled in a battle with Nitro Gas. If he sees that Nitro is going to come past at a rate of knots past him, it may be a case of trying to look at it a little bit more tactically and maybe letting him past and hoping that his tyres burn out before the end of the race, and Nick can use a little bit of life maybe if he's looked after those soft compound tyres, because he just doesn't want to get stuck in a battle with Nitro as he comes up, because it's just going to compromise him. It's going to bring Sab and Spud just possibly into play.
Yeah, if we just go back to the notorious SJD battle, SJD managing to close down Notorious on the soft tyre, so SJD certainly maximising the grip and pace on those ultra softs. Currently 4/10 of a second behind Notorious as we go through the long sweeping right hand turns. SJD, a little bit of a dirtier, runs wide at the exit of turn 18, tucks in behind the Red Bull at 19. A little look on the inside as we approach turn 20, tries to get the car straightened up as quick as possible. DRS open, can he catch the Red Bull on that run up the hill? Looks as if Notorious has got a little healthy gap. A little look on the inside by SGD, possibly trying to unsettle Notorious and the Red Bull. So unable to make a pass at the start of lap 21. And it's going to come down to the S section, as you said earlier on, Gareth, emulated on Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Notorious runs wide out of turn 6 and 7, and that allows SGD to close down the Red Bull as we move up the hill at turn 9.
As Nitro Gas now right behind Nick LJ Thompson, coming out of turn 11 onto the DRS straight, and he's going to look at the rear end and moving possibly past the Haas driver. Nick got a really poor exit out of turn 3, and it allowed Nitro to close almost a second up as he looks to possibly feign a move down the inside. Doesn't quite get it done, but Nick now really under threat of 4th position from the charging Nitro Gas.
And as Nitro Gas bailed out of that attempted braking contest, HGD definitely rose to the occasion and got the move done on Nitro Gas under braking at turn 12. So SGD up into 8th place with Sir Spud 1.6 seconds ahead in the fellow Renault car.
Oh, sorry, Craig. Nitro Gas takes the position off Nick LJ Thompson through turn 19 and 18 and 19. He got on the inside through turn 18, then swooped back and went through up the inside of turn 19, pushed Nick onto the dirty part of the track, and Nick just didn't have to drive off of it, and Nitro Gas takes 4th position with an absolutely cracking move.
Yeah, and we're all set for round 3 between Nitro Gas and Tom 444, but it should be advantage Nitro Gas on the super soft tyres, and that battle is 7.1 seconds away.
And looking at the top end of the grid, Wave Intel was starting to turn the screw a lap previously. Got the lap down, or he got the gap down to MJ Coupe to around 1.5 seconds, but he's had a little bit of a scruffy lap so far, and it's dropped down to 2.5 seconds. But Wave Intel definitely looking like he's poised and ready to make an attack on the Force India for the lead of the race.
Yeah, SJD unable to really maximise DRS on Sir Spud as Sir Spud picks up DRS from Saab. So that is neutralising the DRS between both Renault cars, and it's going to come down to possibly late braking. for SGD to make the move on Sir Spud, because Sir Spud certainly within DRS activation point as we approach Sector 3.
Yeah, Saab definitely looking under threat from the two Renaults behind him. It's all he's going to be able to see in his mirrors is flashes of yellow and black on either side of him. He's going to think like he's seeing double, and unfortunately for Saab, it looks like the two Renaults are looking really racy, and they're both going to get DRS heading up the hill.
Yeah, SGD gets the better exit between himself and Sir Spud. Sir Spud starting to drop off the back of the Red Bull, and that allows SGD to close the gap. Has a little look on the inside again at turn 1. Thinks better of it, doesn't want to risk it. Oh, Sir Spud runs deep out of turn 1. Both Renault cars wheel to wheel as we approach turn 2, but SGD gets the nose ahead. Sir Spud just tucks in behind the Renault of SGD as we come through turns 4, 5, 6, round turn 7. SGD runs slightly wide out of turn 7, possibly catching the dirty air from the Red Bull of Saab.
SJD, they're really utilising those brand new ultra soft tyres for the grip to go around the outside of Spud round turn 3, and he really used the power of that Renault car just to get that little bit of extra boost as he went into the complex of turn 4, 5 and 6, and he gets the move done on his Renault counterpart.
Yeah, SGD now lining up the Red Bull of Saab as Sir Spud still remains within 0.4 of a second. So Sir Spud not willing to give up the battle for 7th at the moment, and it looks as Sir Spud possibly feeling that Saab is a possible candidate for an overtake as well. So Sir Spud very racy in the last 4 laps of the race, but can Nitrogas close down that 4.9 second gap between himself and Tom 444 and possibly snatch a podium at the end of the race?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. We've seen just how pacey that Nitro has been tonight. He's going to use those super soft tyres as Wave Intel picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that could be huge come the end of the race. Yeah,
absolutely, and in terms of the championship as well, there's only 3 positions between Wave Intel and Nick Thompson, and if that time penalty actually drops Wave Intel further, then Nick Thompson will breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah, and Wave Intel currently sitting 3.6 seconds behind MJ Coupe, and of course Coupe with the extra 3-second penalty on Wave at the moment. So Wave would be second by as he drops back or drops back to 4.8 seconds. So not quite sure what just happened there, but Wave Intel must have had a really poor exit out of the first sector. Now that does mean that MJ Coupe would take the victory.
Yeah, certainly we will wait to see what the final penalty positions are, but SGD gets a run on Saab as we run down towards turn 12, so it looks as if Saab's going to lose a position to SGD on the quicker tyres. SGD gets ahead before turn 12, and that will leave Sir Spud the perfect opportunity to put pressure on Saab in the last few laps of the race, and we saw Sir Spud trying to turn the screw on Saab earlier on before SGD got into the mix, so Sir Spud will be hoping that it is business as usual, as Nitrogas currently still trying to rein in Tom 444, the gap down to 2.8 seconds. So will we see a battle on the last 2 laps of the race for a final podium spot?
As SJD now really close up behind Nick L.J. Thompson as they head into the first corner, and the Renault with DRS on the Haas car in front. He goes a little bit deep into turn 1. That's going to compromise his exit ever so slightly, but Nick now really under threat from the Renault behind, who's pulling along with him the Red Bull and the Renault behind him.
Yeah, Nick Thompson just trying to manage those tyres. Oh, really compromised on grip there at the exit of turn 6. That allows SGD to close up right on the gearbox of the Haas, and Nick Thompson does not need this in the final 3 laps of the race, and certainly in the second last race of the season.
No, it looks like he possibly might go for the up and under for the Renault as he comes to the inside, but he doesn't quite get the drive off of the corner. But the Renault in the toe of Nick L.J. Thompson as they head down the long straight. DRS is wide open. The flap of that Renault sits absolutely wide open. Does he pull it inside and go? He goes around the outside of the Haas. Does he get the move done? Nick really defending harsh into the corner, but I don't think he's got enough, and the Renault takes the position off of Nick.
Yeah, Nick Thompson forcing SGD to go round the long way, but it looks as if SGD got a bit out of shape at the exit of turn 14 into 15. That allowed Nick Thompson to move back up to 5th, but it is a train developing behind Nick Thompson with SJD, Saab and Sir Spud looking to line each other up. It is a 5-way battle for 5th position.
We have both Renaults and both Red Bulls now looking at the back of that Haas and thinking, I want a bit of that, I want that position. And we're going to have a 5-car battle over the last 2 laps for 5th position.
Sir Spud pulls out the toe behind Saab in the Red Bull, trying to take the inside line into turn 1, gets it done under braking, can he hold it? He runs weed again. Oh, Saab's contact! There is contact between Saab and Sir Spud, and it is a retirement for the Renault Sir Spud, but SGD still behind Nick Thompson, the gap 0.2 of a second as we come through turn 6 on to turn 7. And I think, although it's a disaster for Saab and Sir Spud, I think it will be an absolute relief for Nick Thompson, who potentially could have lost 4 positions.
Yeah, Spud just looked like he went a little bit deep into the corner and just lit up those rear tyres, and it just turned him into the Red Bull. And unfortunately for Saab, he was a little bit of a passenger in that accident, and Spud came across, and it's an unfortunate exit for Spud quite late on in this race. But SJD looking at the back of the Haas as they go down. Once again, he's look at the outside going into turn 12. Who's braver on the brakes? It looks like Nick has the racing line, but the Renault's going to look at possibly going up and under once again going into turn 13, 14 and 15.
Yeah, and as we were watching that battle as well, Gareth, Nitrogas does overtake Tom and moves up to 3rd place. But Nitrogas does have that 3-second time penalty, and where will that put him in the final classifications? Is SGD currently still battling Nick Thompson for P5. Nick Thompson defending with everything that he's got, trying to force SGD to go round the outside. SGD will have DRS, but Notorious on the softs as well in 7th, currently just behind this battle for P5.
Yeah, Notorious just watching the guys in front and just hoping that they get tangled up with each other and that he can make the most of the action going on ahead of him. He managed to stay out of the accident between Saab and Spud, so he's just sitting behind these two and potentially just nursing those tyres, looking for a last lap attack on the 2 in front.
Yeah, Notorious just sitting, biding his time. Nick Thompson really struggling for grip now with those soft tyres. But SGD just waiting, biding his time as well, going to wait for any opportunity. Will we see him wait for the DRS, in which we've seen Nick Thompson take the defensive line, forcing SGD to go round the outside, where Nick Thompson has maintained P5, but it looks as if he can't. It's going to be difficult for him to defend this time. The Haas definitely has the straight line speed. SGD possibly running with high wing. It's going to be a late braking contest this time. SGD has the inside line.
And that's going to mean Nick runs out wide, and he's going to drop 2 positions there as Notorious also makes the most of Nick running out wide and moves up into 6th position. And he's going to run a little bit deep. Does that allow Nick to come back at him? He doesn't. Notorious maintains 6th, and the race is still on for 5th position as Tom 44 picks up a 3-second time penalty on the last lap of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and I think that secures 3rd place for Nitrogas if he can keep it clean. And certainly the big gainer there was Notorious, who didn't really need to fight too much. He just allowed SJD and Nick Thompson to battle it out, and he certainly picked up the scraps there and 6th place.
Just sitting and watching MJ Cooper is on his final lap of the Circuit of Americas. Looks like he's going to take provisional victory in the Force India. We'll look to see what happens with the stewards after the race, but it's MJ Cooper that's going down the long straight for the last time into turn 12. Wave and Tell has dropped off quite considerably over the last 3 or 4 laps, back to 5.6 seconds, and Nitro 4 seconds behind him. So MJ Coop kind of under threat for the last portion of this race, so he'll be glad about that, and he'll just be looking to nurse these tyres to the end. Yeah,
certainly MJ Coop's driven a blinder this evening. Just needs to keep it clean, as you had mentioned, Gareth. It's all going to come down to time penalties. Wave Intel 5.7 seconds behind, with Nitrogas after falling down the pit order, opting for a two-stop strategy rather than the one, gets himself back up to P3. As MJ Coupe comes round turn 20, he will take provisionally the USA Grand Prix race win. Wave Intel comes round, secures second, so MJ Coupe does hold on to the race win. The Taurus crosses the line in third. Tom 444 for Force India comes across in fourth. SJD also on the two-stop strategy should secure fifth, with Notorious sixth and Nick Thompson in seventh. So SGD does take fifth, Notorious sixth. Oh, Nick Thompson moves up to fifth after time penalties, and that is vital for next week's championship title decider. Giuseppe comes across the line in 8th. Mike should come across in 9th for Ferrari. After earlier contact with Sir Spud, Saab should take the final championship point as Nick Thompson leaves this session after a hard-fought 5th place.
Yeah, Nick, really lucky there. That was absolutely, as you said, crucial for next week in Sepang. He was about to pick up 4 points, which would have made next week's and final race of the season really tricky battle between him and Wave Intel. But the extra 2 points that he'll get for finishing 5th may soften that blow a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But MJ Coupe, despite picking up those earlier time penalties, will be absolutely delighted with that race victory. And I think that might actually be his first race victory of the Performance League.
Yeah, I believe it is. He's been a bit of a nearly man when it comes to the Performance League, but starting to move that luck and well, I say luck, but he's been brilliant in the F3 League so far this season. So he's starting to bring over that form from F3 into Performance League. Yeah,
absolutely delighted for MJ Coupe to secure his first race of the season. A driver who's certainly improving each race, but a great drive also from Toro Rosso driver and championship contender, possibly championship favourite, Wave Intel, followed by Nitrogas, who drove a blinder this evening.
Yeah, Wave Intel moves on to 66 points in the season, as Nico J. Thompson will sit behind on, I believe, 58 points, 59 points. So Wave Intel definitely with the advantage going into Malaysia. Yeah, so just send an invite to the top 3 drivers, and we'll run down the classifications from tonight's race. MJ Coupe picks up the race victory, followed by Wave Intel. Nitrogas takes 3rd, Tom takes 4th. 5th is Nick Thompson, SGD 6th, Notorious 7th. 8th is Mike, Giuseppe 9th, Saab 10th, Fascone 11th, with Sir Spud securing 12th position. So as we await the top 3 drivers to join us for the post-race interviews, we'll just give you a moment, lads, just to catch your breath as always. Please ensure that you have the party settings to allow your voice to be shared, and please remain on the screen of the custom lobby, please. So, an exciting race, Gareth, from start to finish, even from qualifying, with Nitrogas securing pole right at the deaths of qualifying, and edge of your seat racing from start to finish. Your quick thoughts on tonight's race, Gareth, before we proceed on to the post-race interviews? I think we had an absolutely electric race tonight. Some guys really putting it all on the lines with some fantastic overtaking and really, really giving it their all, coming towards the penultimate race of the season. So it's really, really showed the class of these guys, that they were still willing to go wheel to wheel so close towards the end of the season with points so crucial.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So we have been joined by the race winner, MJ Coupe. Just before we proceed, can I just ask, Coupe, that you check your party settings, that you always allow your voice to be shared, and that you're actually in the custom lobby screen. So we'll begin with the race winner, MJ Coupe. How does it feel to take the first race victory in the Performance League?
First one of the season, yeah, it feels great, yeah. I needed that, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a slightly faster car than some of the guys, but you can only do what you've given with the machinery you're given, so yeah. Just what the doctor ordered, really happy, and glad I could get a win this season, yeah, over the moon.
And it looked round about halfway through the race, Wave Intel was beginning to close the gap to yourself, and you had picked up 2 time penalties, I believe. Was there any moment at that point in the race where you felt you were going to lose it, or did you try and remain focused on the job at hand, taking one lap at a time?
A little bit of both, really. There was a point in the race when I had an early penalty, and I wanted to win it on the track, so when I had the first penalty, I was trying to build a 3-second gap, which I almost had, but then when I got the second penalty, I thought, this is going to be really tricky, but then I thought I'd be surprised if Wave went around this track without a penalty, because it's a notorious track for picking up time penalties, so yeah, I tried to get the 3-second gap, which I managed to get, so it was hanging in the balance at that point, but then I don't know if Wave lost a little bit of pace, but I seemed to maintain my pace, and towards the end of the race, when we get to about 4.9, 5.2, I just focused on concentrating, clean laps, and I was actually one incident away from another time penalty, so the last 6 to 7 laps I really concentrated, took it carefully, and made sure there were no more penalties, and I actually, when I crossed the line, I was actually 6 seconds ahead, which I was really happy about, so regardless of what Wave did, I would have beaten him on the track, so delighted.
And it's fair. Is it fair to say that it's maybe been your Achilles heel, picking up time penalties here and there, and it certainly cost you some serious points? Is that something that you're going to be focusing on improving on in the post season?
Yeah, I agree with you. It has been a problem I had certainly earlier on in the season, and yeah, you're right, it did cost me some points. But I mean, even in the last race, on the F3 League, I got a speeding penalty on the pit lane, so all that type of thing. Yeah, I've been trying to clean it up, and I genuinely think, despite having this little bit of a reputation, it's definitely got better over the last couple of races. Really brought it down. On this race, I would normally have probably got 12 seconds, but yeah, to only get 2, I'm happy with that, because most people got 1, so yeah, it's definitely getting better. It's getting where I want to be, but not quite there yet. Okay,
thanks very much. So we move on to second place driver Wave Intel, driving for Toro Rosso this evening, still topping tonight's championship table, and after tonight's race, certainly opening up the gap between yourself, Nick Thompson and the Boogster. Does that make going into Malaysia easier or harder?
I don't think it really changes much. Like, going into this week, my only goal was to beat Nick, and it'll be the same next week. So I don't really think it'll change my targets at all.
Okay, and certainly had like a middle of the pack car. Was it always your intention to go for the one-stop strategy from the get-go, or was it pretty much watching what the other cars did round about you? How did you approach tonight's race?
I was always going to go for the one-stop. I know that you can get more time with the two-stop, but I like spending as much time in the race on the track as I can. So I just try to avoid making 2 stops as much as I can.
And as we had mentioned to MJ Coupe earlier on, it looked as if you were beginning to close the gap between himself and you, round about the halfway mark, and then you started to drift off a little bit, losing a lot of time. Was it a mistake, or were you just losing grip in the tyres?
I was losing grip in the tyres, and that caused me to make one mistake, which dropped me back a few seconds, but I think it was lost by that point anyway.
Okay. So we move on to third place driver Nitrogash. How did it feel to secure, firstly, pole position, and then make your way back up the grid to secure the final podium spot? But most importantly, how does it feel to score the first points of this season?
Yeah, I just wanted to get a point, but
Well,
when
you
I was
have
on
to-
pole, I was just remembering last week, I was like, oh, here we go, and I messed up the first corner last week, and then it just all went to pot. So I was like, just get off the line. I got beat off the line by Wave, I think, and then I got through the S's, which was my main objective, just to make it through nice and safe, and then Coop got me, and then I was having a battle with Tom, and I just wanted to make it to the first pit stop in like one piece.
Okay.
So from there, I sort of built from there. I just thought I'd pick my pace up after that and try and cut through people. But I was a bit worried because everybody went to softs and I was like two-stopping. I was thinking, oh man, have I made a massive mistake here?
It certainly looked, when you come back on track from your first and second pit stop, you were driving like a man possessed. It looked as if there was moments where you were a little bit cautious, but in other times you were really aggressive, but clean at the same time. Is that how it was for yourself, that you really got that bit between your teeth and just basically went for it every lap?
Yeah, I mean, most people I was catching at the start of the lap, and then I would just try and be calm through the S's until I got towards the back straight, and then I'd sort of attack from there and calm down again as I got to sector 1, because I kept picking penalties up through the S's. Okay. So I really tried to concentrate, and then obviously on the last lap, I was one away from another penalty. I was going through the S's, and I made it through, and I got all the way to the last lap. No, sorry. And I got a penalty there, and then I thought Tom's going to have less penalties than me and nick the podium, but luckily he had 6 seconds there.
Okay. It certainly looked as if you had a race-long battle with Tom 444 as yours and his strategies played out, and it looked as if the first 2 rounds kind of belonged to him. How satisfying that you secured that third spot from him right at the end? How did you feel about that, Nitro?
Yeah, I saw him in the distance, and I was just thinking, like, can I get him? Can I get him? And then it was coming down bit by bit, and I thought, I can get him. And as I went past him, it told me he got a penalty, but I knew I had 6, so I was like, right, if I can get 3 seconds ahead of him, I've definitely, he's got 1. I know he's definitely got 1, and I've got 2, so I'll get the podium. But then when I hit the last corner and he gave me another one, I was gutted. But obviously, as he came across the line, I'd worked out that he's got more than that. But it was pretty satisfactory getting him back.
Okay.
I had a bit of an incident with Nick as well, so I've got to apologise to Nick for that. I thought I'd passed him on the I think it was second to last corner or something, but I think I hit him.
So certainly that leaves my questions, guys. I'm going to hand over to Gareth to see if he's got any questions for yourselves. So Gareth, I'll hand it over to yourself.
Yeah, just one question for the top, or for each one of the top 3. So I was just going to say to Coop, so do you feel that the race victory today is kind of a little bit of a redemption for what happened, of course, on the last lap of last week where you picked up that puncture? Is it, you were definitely obviously within, or you had the pace to attack, and so today you kind of utilised that and you kind of controlled the race from the front, even though you were picking up penalties, that it didn't really look like you were going to come under threat at any point?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, firstly, it does get rid of some of the disappointment from last week. It does make me feel a lot better about what happened last week. But yeah, sometimes when these things happen, you just learn from your mistakes. And I was a little bit more cautious. I actually went a lot longer than Wave. Wave did the undercut on me. I did a lot longer just to be sure that I knew I had about 2 seconds on him. So I thought the undercut it will come out very close. But so yeah, took the car gently back, took the diff down, took it easy on the first laps, but then when the penalties crept in, just trying to build a gap slowly and lap by lap build a gap rather than going crazy and doing anything with the tyres. So yeah, really took it easy with the tyres and had plenty of life left at the end. But yeah, definitely feels good after what happened last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wave, so the first half of the season for you was actually quite a spotty one. Your best finish was a 6th place in Singapore and China, but since the season break, you've actually not been off the podium at all, with 3 third places, a second and a win. So what happened during the season break that has given you all of this pace?
Honestly, I have no idea. I just seem to have came back and just been instantly on the pace. Can't really explain it myself.
No, I mean, obviously it's been shown in F3 as well as in the Performance League. So I think it's definitely a credit to you that you've really upped your game come towards the end of the season. And Nitro, like you were saying, you made some absolutely cracking overtakes throughout the race, and the one on Nick was definitely a brave move into turn 19. But were there any favourites of yours? Did you have a particular spot on the circuit that you decided to line people up on, or was it just a case of Daniel Ricciardo lick it and send it when the opportunity arose?
Yeah, more when it arose, really. I mean, I was trying to be patient most of the time, but if it was there, I took it. But there wasn't any sort of particular spots. It was just when the opportunity arose. There was one just before the back straight. I can't remember who it was, but I had to miss him. I literally turned in to smash him into the back of him, and it ended up being a great overtake. I can't even remember who it was on. I think it might have been on Tom, but it was just literally catch up to people and then bide my time and take it when it was there, really.
Yeah, no, so yeah, that's all my questions, guys. Congratulations, it was an absolutely fantastic race.
Yeah, thanks guys for joining us for the post-race interviews. Just like to wish you all the best going into Malaysia. Thanks to everyone again who joined us for tonight's race and posted your comments. It's always interesting to hear, you know, how you are actually experiencing the race as well. And we hope that you all enjoy tonight's USA Grand Prix, and we will finish the season in Malaysia next week at the Sepang International Circuit, where we will have a championship decider between Wavin Tail and Nick Thompson. So we hope you all enjoy tonight's race as always, and that you join us next week, guys. So we will bring the stream to a close, and we shall see you next Tuesday at 8 PM as normal.